Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills Season 11 Reunion Part 4. Guys, we made it. To say that this season didn't have all of us on edge, aggravation, irritation, frustration, blood pressure up, the way I want to jump through the TV several times because Dorit, Rinna, Kyle, and Miss Erika tried it. But with all that being said, let's just jump right on into it because we don't have a minute to spare. So this last part starts off right where we left off last week with Erika giving Crystal the business. She's saying, am I angry enough for you? And of course, Crystal is just quiet as anything, so she doesn't say anything back to Erika. I just don't understand how they allow Erika to slide with the way she talks to people. She can be angry all she wants to, but she needs to watch her tone. Now Andy interjects and says, Erika, the questions that all the ladies have for you are actually pretty reasonable. So why are you lashing out at them? Erika defends her outburst by saying, well, you know, the position that I'm in, how would you feel? Wouldn't you be furious if your friends did this to you? So Andy says, I mean, yeah, I would be upset, but I would still try to make my friends understand what's going on instead of isolating them. So of course, Erika's like, no, I have every right to bite Crystal's head off. I have every right to lash out. And she's purposely trying not to understand Andy's point. Side note, I was texting one of my friends while watching this last part, and we both agreed that this reunion should have been at least 2 parts with the ladies, and then 2 parts with just Andy and Erika one-on-one. That would have been a lot better. Now, Andy chimes back in and tells Erika that he doesn't feel like the ladies are asking questions that are against her. She interrupts him and says that that's how she feels. Garcelle now interjects and says, Erika, that's not what type of time we're on. Like, we're not against you. Erika brings up Kyle's Christmas dinner and how she felt piled up on. So then she says, I'm the source. If you guys have questions, then just come to me about it. Like, talking about me behind my back, that's not cool. I said, Erika, every single time somebody has tried to ask you a question, you have gotten on the defense and started screaming and cursing people out and threatening them. It was like, does Erika not hear herself? I'm just not understanding where the disconnect is. You say on one hand, don't talk about me behind my back, come to me with any questions and concerns that you have. Then, when people do share their concerns and questions, you lash out and accuse them of not being your friend, and you call them everything but a child of God. Erika wants yes men around her, and what she really wants is for everybody to shut up, be quiet, and not question her about anything. So now Erika brings up yet again the dinner that Kyle had with Dorit and PK and her husband, and how PK and Mauricio were laughing at her. She's like, y'all were shitting on me and laughing at my messed up life. Dorit says, no, that's not what we were doing at all. Kyle interjects and says, Erika, I want to apologize for that because I really felt bad watching that over again. But again, I can't control what comes out of my husband or PK's mouth. I said, shut up, Kyle. You feel the same way that they do. You're just too cowardly to say it. Because for some reason, you are so scared of Erika. I just don't understand it. And it's so funny to see how big and bad Kyle was talking when they all met up at Dorit's house. Remember that? Kyle was like, I'm going to be asking Erika this, and that. And then the rest of the season, she turned on Sutton just like that. At this reunion, she was all meek and mild, apologizing to Erika, making faces, not saying much. I said, girl, stop. Kyle, don't you ever fix your lips next season to call anybody weak, because you show just how weak you are all 4 parts of this reunion. So now Andy addresses when Erika announced the divorce and how people were calling it a sham. He wants to know if the other ladies thought that the divorce was a sham as well. So everybody's like, no, not at all. I knew it was real. It was just really shocking to me when I heard the news. I said again, Kyle, Dorit, and Rinna are liars because they were the first ones in their confessionals saying, I'm just in shock right now because she didn't say anything about it when we were away on the trip. She was saying how their marriage was great. Like, what's the truth? Just be honest. Just admit and say, you know what? When the news broke of their divorce, I had quite a few questions. I didn't believe it. Now, Garcelle, while I've been on your case this season because I feel like you've been too passive and you haven't just unleashed, you really shined in this last part. I liked how you were not afraid to call Erika out, and you did it in such a calm and a graceful way. I was here for all of it. When Andy brought up the LA Times article breaking, and then how Erika had left early, and then on top of that, you guys had that meeting at Dorit's house 24 hours later, when Erika said, why wasn't I invited? And you said, well, Erika, you left the day before, and not only that, you were mad at me, so we just thought, hey, we don't want to deal with this again because if we have you at the house, you're going to be upset at all the questions that we're going to ask. I love how she just got Erika together, and you notice how Erika did not challenge Garcelle. She got mad at Crystal. She lashed out at some points at Dorit, Kyle, and she even got into it with Andy quite a few times. But she kept her calm when she was talking to Miss Garcelle. I said, that's right, sis. Keep it real cute. Now Andy pivots back to the financial problems with Erika and Tom. He wants to know if Erika had a feeling that they were in some financial trouble. She says it was in 2020 while she was on Broadway. I think her card had gotten declined, and that's when she knew that some stuff was about to hit the fan. I was really confused to hear that because how is your card declining when you're getting those hefty Broadway checks and you're also making money from the show? Erika's salary is $600,000 from Beverly Hills. Okay? So she was bringing in a nice piece of change. Plus, she had like a Shoe Dazzle endorsement. Erika was making good money. So I'm just confused as to how her card was getting declined. Then Andy reads a viewer question directed to Kyle asking why she didn't say anything to Erika about the rumors that she had heard about Erika and Tom's money problems. So of course Kyle's stuttering and stammering. I said, girl, cat got your tongue? The same way you were pestering Sutton to speak up and say it with her chest, why can't you speak up? It's just so funny to me that Kyle has all this mouth behind the scenes, but when she's in person one-on-one, now she can't talk. So she's like, I don't know. It was just a rumor that I heard. Andy, you heard the same thing, Andy. Tell Erika what you heard. So then Erika's like, well, what did you hear, Andy? So now Andy says, well, I had heard from a source that you and Tom were going through some money problems a few years back, but I just ignored it. So then Erika gets mad and says, well, I wish you would have told me. Erika, you sound so dumb. Who's going to tell you every single rumor that they hear about you? Do you know how many rumors he hears about all these housewives? He probably just said, this is just some rumor. Of course that's not true. Tom's this big-time lawyer. He brushed it off like everybody else did. Now Andy goes on to ask Erika, how is she paying for her lifestyle now? So she says, well, Andy, you just said that you pay me well, so, you should know the answer to that. So he's like, so I'm guessing you're using the show money to pay for everything? And she says, there's your answer. Now Andy reads a viewer question asking why Erika didn't wear waterproof mascara the episode that she was crying and talking to Kyle about everything unfolding. Erika, sweetheart, I want you to really sit down and think about your lies before you open your mouth, because this answer made no sense. Erika says, I usually wear waterproof mascara, but I didn't that day. She goes on to say how waterproof mascara, she wears it because she has allergies. The answer made no sense, y'all. She was grasping at straws. So then Lisa Rinna jumps in and says, well, girl, you have like so many different makeup artists, so maybe it was a different makeup artist who forgot and he just put on some regular mascara. So she's like, yeah, that's it. That's probably what happened. So now Andy changes gears in the conversation and he wants to know if Erika has spoken to Tom. Erika reveals that not only has she spoken to Tom, but he calls her every single day, and he also called her 5 times while they've been shooting the reunion. I feel like whatever Tom has going on, they're trying to exaggerate it to play the sympathy card so that he can avoid jail time. That's what they're doing. I'm just not buying this whole thing about, he doesn't remember where he's at. He can't remember anything. I'm just not buying it. So here's where Erika tries to give her best Oscar-worthy performance. Andy asks her the $64 million question. Did she ask Tom if he did it? When I tell you it felt like it took forever and a damn day for Erika to finally eke out an answer. So Erika says, I asked him, why would you do this to me? Why would you leave me with all these lawsuits? I said, did y'all notice that her answer was about her and her problems and her plight? Not once did she say anything about these innocent victims who were cheated and robbed out of millions of dollars of settlement money that belonged to them. She does not care about anybody else. It's all about her lifestyle and making sure that she's still able to go to Neiman Marcus and Saks and still be comfortable. That's all she cares about. She could give a damn about other people. She doesn't care. And this answer was very reminiscent to the answer that she gave in the first part of this reunion when she said, look, I'm 50 now. I have to take care of myself and worry about myself. Like, it's about me making sure that I'm good. Whoever advised her to come to this reunion did her a disservice. So you can tell that Andy's not pleased with Erika's answer, and he goes on to ask her one more time. Did you ask him if he did it? Erika says, Andy, he can't even comprehend anything right now, okay? He knows enough to call you every day, but he can't answer a question about if he did it. Do you see how crazy that sounds? And you have the nerve to be upset that people don't believe you. Andy brings up the $20 million being transferred into Erika Jayne Global. She's not being forthright about that. It's all this double talk. She's not making any sense. He did do it. He didn't do it. I said, you know what, Andy? Just stop asking questions at this point because we're not going to get the truth. Then Andy goes on to ask about her spending $14 million on her American Express. She says she did spend it over a period of 12 years and how this is common for everybody who lives this lifestyle. Andy reads another viewer's question asking Erika that if she had known that all this was going to go down, would she have come out with a song called Expensive? Erika starts laughing and says, had I known about all this, I would not even be on this show. Like, I want people to understand that this wasn't some master plan. This is a tragic sequence of events that I had nothing to do with. So now Andy directs a question to Sutton, and he brings up how Sutton had some information about a former partner at Tom's law firm who ended up leaving years ago because his wife had a feeling that there were some shady dealings going on. So Erika's like, I mean, can you say the name? Like, who said that? Who told you that? Like, help me out. I said, why are you asking Sutton? Ask your lawyers to find out who this person is. And also, there were a lot of people saying the same thing in the documentary, The Housewife and the Hustler on Hulu. So ask those people. And I wouldn't help Erika if I were Sutton. I would have said, girl, choke. Like, honestly and truly, that's what I would have told Erika. I would have given Erika my ass to kiss. You don't get to berate me, threaten me, curse me out, call me everything but a child of God, and then ask me for help. I don't think so. Then Erika goes on this long tangent about how she just felt like she was being shitted on by all of her friends. Dorit interjects and says, Erika, nobody's trying to shit on you. We just had questions. And on top of that, you never even spoke about your lawsuits. So now Erika turns around and says to Dorit, but we've never spoken about your lawsuits either, sis. Did you guys see how quiet Dorit was? And then when they did that flashback to the reunion a few years ago, and Andy brought up how her ex-business partner was suing her when she had that swimsuit line, I said, wow. Now, Andy, I felt like you let Dorit off the hook because I would have delved into her financial issues. I was surprised that nobody brought up the $1.3 million tax lien that's against her and PK. Dorit, you really lucked out that Erika's drama overshadowed everything else. But next season, sis, if you are on, we're coming for you. All right? We are coming for you and your financial issues because you have been skating around for years now. And we're tired. And let me just say, the viewer questions for this last part were so deliciously shady. I was getting my entire life.
I love it. I love it.
And you could tell that Andy was getting so much enjoyment reading them. I especially loved when he read that question that said, I'm so disappointed in all you ladies. Kyle, you were a kiss ass. Dorit, you were duplicitous. Crystal, you were on mute. Like, I was so here for it. They were all shook when Andy read that question too. It's the truth. Everybody saw the same thing. They were all kissing Erika's ass and afraid of her and afraid to say how they truly felt about the situation. Now Rinna decides that she wants to step into the conversation and add her 2 cents, which we didn't need. She says, you know what, guys? This isn't going to work if everybody continues to talk about each other behind their backs. So Andy looks at Rinna like, girl, are you sure that you want to be the one saying anything about people talking behind people's backs? Baby, when they played that montage of Rinna doing everybody dirty over these last 6 seasons, I was here for it. The way Rinna dogged out Yolanda Hadid when Yolanda had Lyme disease. The way she did Kim Richards, insinuating that Kim was still on drugs. The way she did our girl Denise Richards. When they played that tape back, I said, Rinna, don't you ever fix your botched lips to talk about anybody being a good friend and to be upfront with people. You have talked behind everybody's back. You have stirred the pot every single season. You have flipped on good friends, ran them off the show. How dare you? And is it just me? Or did Lisa Rinna's lips look disgusting in this reunion? I was like, I don't know if she got more injections, but she looked terrible. Rinna's lips used to look cute, but now they look all misshapen and just disgusting. I said, girl, get out of here. She kept pursing her lips too. I said, girl, nobody wants to see that. I was also really happy to see that Andy pressed Rinna about if she regrets her actions on how she did several of the ladies on the cast, like Yolanda, LVP, and Denise. And when Rinna was sitting up there talking about, you know, it still haunts me to this day how I treated all of them. I feel really bad about that. I feel remorseful, and I wish I could just do it over again because I would have never done that. I said, it's all lies. The only reason why Lisa Rinna feels bad is because she got so much backlash from the fans, especially last season. I was pissed at how she did Denise Richards. Like, livid. I could not believe that she would turn on her friend of 20 plus years over some silly rumor. And again, if Denise did have sex with Brandi Glanville, who cares? And why is that any of your business? I want Denise and LVP to come back on this show and let everybody have it.
There we go. Thank you. And you're going to always get it again and again and again.
That would be a dream team. Lisa Vanderpump, Denise Richards, Garcelle and Sutton. What? Kyle, Rinna, and Dorit would be shook. Then Erika tries to justify her actions at Kathy's house. She says that the reason why she had that breakdown was because she was just so sad of being accused of lying. So it really got to her. So now Garcelle says, well, don't you want to apologize to Sutton for how you acted? And she's like, why am I apologizing, Garcelle, for defending myself? Andy and Garcelle both say at the same time, for threatening Sutton because that's what you were doing. So Erika's getting upset. She's still defending the way she acted towards Sutton. And she says, let me explain something to you. The longer you're on this show, there is always a chance that it's going to be your season where shit hits the fan. She says, this season was my season. And when one of you guys has your season where you're dealing with some mess, I'm not going to give you guys the grace that I asked for. Erika, for you to say that nobody gave you grace this season is a slap in the face because Kyle, Dorit, Rinna were all kissing your ass all season long. They were too afraid to ask you anything. Everybody handled you with kid gloves. So please tell me, on what planet did they not give you grace? Rinna's been your biggest cheerleader. Sutton brought you a gift basket with champagne when the news broke out that you were getting a divorce. She also offered you money when everything came out about Tom doing what he did. I'd say that that's grace and that's excellent friendship. So what are you saying that nobody gave you grace? Because if it's not what you want to hear, then you're upset. There were so many times during this reunion where I felt like it was literally talking to a wall, like nobody could get through to Erika. It felt like they were talking to a sociopath. It's just absolute craziness that Erika is trying to be obtuse and she just does not want to see things from another perspective. Oh, and Rinna being Erika's biggest cheerleader, I was cracking up when Rinna finally admitted that she did give Erika the heads up before that Christmas dinner. And we all called it. We had all speculated that Rinna was on that phone telling Erika that they had met up without her. We knew it because we know that Rinna is two-faced and she's a friend to nobody. So now we see Sutton and Erika get into it yet again. They're arguing about Erika throwing out those really nasty threats at Kathy's dinner party. Sutton says that's not how an adult behaves. Like, you could have just talked to me. Like, you didn't have to do all that. And I felt scared. Like, I didn't know what you meant when you said, I'm going to come for you. Or, I felt like you were coming for me and my family. So now Erika's saying that it wasn't a threat. So now Andy's like, well, what exactly did you mean by that when you said it? So now Erika's like, look, if we were in Potomac, if we were in Atlanta, if we were in New York, nobody would bat an eye. But only in Beverly Hills is everybody so precious. And I was cracking up when she said that because I said, yeah, you better name New York too because New York gets it started too. And so does Jersey, okay? There is some table flipping, pulling of extensions, like they really get it popping over there. That's another grade A franchise, but again, that's another story for another day. Now Andy brings up a really popular tweet that went viral where it said, how come nobody called Erika a bully when she was at Kathy Hilton's dinner party? And that's a question that I was asking the remainder of the season. How come that bully word only got used for Garcelle? And Garcelle was nobody's bully. She's been one of the calmest, passive people on this cast. So Andy points out that Garcelle retweeted that tweet and also said, like, thank you, like, I agree. So Dorit sitting there looking stupid because remember that Dorit went full Karen and called Garcelle a bully for no reason. Garcelle goes on to say that she agreed with the tweet, and not only that, that night still haunts her because if she could do it over again, she would have stopped it. She would have said, like, this is enough, like, stop coming for Sutton, like, leave her alone. Now, Garcelle and Andy, I was hoping that you guys would have pressed Dorit about her bully comment towards Garcelle again, and I was hoping that they would have said, now, Dorit, why didn't you ever call Erika a bully? And did you ever think that Erika was being a bully to Sutton? The way Dorit was squirming in her seat, like, I would not have let Dorit off the hook. Everybody at this reunion would have gotten it. Had I hosted, nobody's feelings would have been spared. And I can't stand Dorit. I think that she's a nasty person. And I'm still going to hold a grudge over how she called our girl Garcelle a bully, knowing damn well that that's a lie. Andy addresses Sutton hiring security after Erika's making those empty threats. And she says, yeah, I mean, I thought that she was going to go after my family. And I get it. I mean, Erika's crazy. She's being tied into a lot of crazy stuff. So Sutton, do what you have to do to protect your peace and your sanity and your safety. So I was here for it. Then Sutton continues saying that you are throwing all these insults at me, like you need to learn how to speak to people like an adult. So Erika says, look, I said what I said because I thought that you were a bitchy, and then she calls her a see you next Tuesday. All right, you know that word that I'm talking about. Yeah, she calls Sutton that. Now Sutton, you are way too calm because I swear to you, a champagne glass might have gotten thrown. I'm just saying, I'm just being honest. Sutton brings up that Erika is somewhat of a liar because in Del Mar, she was acting like she forgave Sutton and like they were friends again. So Erika says, that's not me lying, that's me playing you. So then Sutton brings up that Erika was telling everybody how great her marriage was, how perfect it was. And Erika says that she wasn't saying that her marriage was perfect. She was just trying to protect her husband at the time. Now Miss Sutton clears Erika and she says, well, that's a lie. And sometimes you do lie to protect people. Erika is dismissing Sutton. She's like, girl, you weren't even in this friend group years ago. Like, you just got on, like, please. Then she goes on to say how she was only saying that to protect Tom. But once she received word from his lawyers that he was incompetent, then it was like, okay, she's done with the act and this ruse that everything's all good when it's not. Then she adds that as close as her and Lisa Rinna are, she couldn't even answer all of Rinna's questions. I said, girl, be quiet. Rinna didn't ask you anything. She was sitting there just cheering you on, letting you lie, lie, and lie. So just stop. So now Andy brings up the Lisa Vanderpump situation. We all remember what happened when Lisa Vanderpump quit the show. We all remember the scandal with the dog that she had given to Dorit. Dorit gave the dog back. Just a hot mess. So Erika says, well, Lisa Vanderpump ran away, but I rang the bell and I'm still here. Even though I'm beat down, I still answered all the questions. You have deflected for the vast majority of this reunion. So please stop patting yourself on the back. You have not accomplished anything. You have not answered anything. You're giving us these half-assed answers that make no sense. As the reunion is winding down, they all bring up the infamous car accident story about Tom going off a cliff, being unconscious for 12 hours, his car flipping over, her son's car flipping over several times, and the way Erika was deflecting yet again. Andy's pressing her about, okay, so when you found out that he got into an accident, did you try to find his phone? She's like, how could I, Andy? He had a flip phone. I'm sorry, I'm just not believing that Tom Girardi was walking around with a flip phone in today's times. Especially as a big-time lawyer. Like, there's just no way that he was walking around with a flip phone. He just wasn't. Andy brings up how there was no police report. Erika's wiggling her way out of answering that. I just said, girl, why can't you just quit while you're ahead? This story makes no sense because it did not happen. There was no accident. Now Dorit interrupts while Erika's trying to tell the story of what happened. And Erika gets an attitude. She's like, can I finish my story, please? I won't be surprised if Dorit and Erika are on the outs next season. Because the way Erika was getting on Dorit this whole entire reunion, you could tell that Dorit was not pleased, but she's too cowardly to say anything to Erika. Erika says that she ended up finding Tom at the bottom of a ravine. Then Andy presses her about where was her son at that it was snowing. So she says, I'm not going to tell that story. I'm not going to get into that because it's not true. It was not snowing in Pasadena, Erika, and you know it. Also, Erika couldn't get her story straight about the car slipping over. When Kyle asked her, you said that both of their cars flipped over. Why are you saying one car flipped over? And then Erika said, well, Tom's car went like this, but my son's car went like this. I was like, so then why did you say that their cars flipped over several times? Just lying. Erika is a liar. Her stories made no sense. Erika reveals that she does not speak to Tom's children. And then Andy wraps up the Erika-Jayne portion of this reunion by thanking her for answering all the questions. I said, Andy, at this point you're humoring her because what did she really answer? We didn't find out anything. I'm still just as confused as I was while the season was going on. Erika sat here and lied through all 4 parts, in my opinion. Nothing got answered, nothing got resolved. She was a jackass to everybody. No sympathy for the victims. All I saw was a woman trying to preserve her lifestyle, just worried about how she's going to be spending the rest of her life. That's all I saw. Andy goes around the room and he wants to know if all the ladies feel like they got all their questions answered. Everybody, for the most part, is like, yeah. Sutton says, I asked all my questions face to face, so thank you for answering. Crystal says that she's done, and then Erika turns around and says, I'm sorry for biting your head off. And Crystal's like, you know what, it's okay. Again, Crystal is just really weak because there's no way that you could talk to me the way you talk to me and then give me a little empty apology. Oh, girl, I'm sorry for cursing you out. No. Erika thanks all of them for hearing her out and says that she has a long, arduous road ahead of her. That's an understatement. And you might have an even longer road if you end up in jail. But I digress. Now Kathy interrupts and she's like, wait a minute, I just want to apologize to Garcelle. Garcelle's like, wait, what? Why? She wants to apologize for not attending Garcelle's Haitian dinner party. She says that she wanted to attend, she thought that she was in the clear to attend, but because she had just gotten over COVID, she had to wait another 3 days. So she goes on to say that production told her that she couldn't go to the party, and she thought that production had relayed the message to Garcelle, but they didn't. When she found out that nobody told Garcelle, she was really pissed. Now, Kathy, you had the rest of the season to mention this on camera. Why did you wait till the reunion to say something? But I said, the only reason why you're addressing it now because you saw all the backlash you got from the fans. I'm just saying, Kathy, you waited a little bit too long to address this. You could have apologized to Garcelle for not attending when you guys were in Del Mar, when you were at Dorit's bridal launch party. You could have told her then, but you didn't. I said, But I'm glad that you did apologize to Garcelle in front of all the ladies, because that was important. But I still have my good eye on you, Kathy, okay? And don't do this again. Next season, when Garcelle has an event, you better be there. And if you can't attend for some odd reason, a gift basket needs to be sent ASAP, all right? Kathy then goes on to say that she had a great experience on the show, that she feels like all these ladies, it's like a sisterhood, and she didn't expect for this show to be so real. Garcelle says that she feels like more of an insider in this group, and how she's happy that her and Rinna are good, how her and Dorit are in a better place, and she's going to be more direct going forward. Then Rinna says that she's happy that she's in a good place with Garcelle, and how she's a great friend. Rinna, stop playing with me. The fact that you had your nerve to fix your lips and to lie like that, you have been one of the worst friends across all the franchises. You're a liar just like Erika. That's why y'all get along so well, because for you to sit up there with a straight face and say that you're a good friend, where? Good friends do not backstab people. Good friends do not run people out of friend groups or off shows. Okay? Good friends are not two-faced. You're a very vile and despicable woman. And for you to even sit there and say that you're a good friend is a slap in the face. You were very evil to Garcelle this season. So don't you ever say that you're a good friend to anybody. I cannot stand Rinna. And the season that her card is pulled, I'm going to be on this camera doing backflips. Do you hear me? The reunion ends with Andy thanking them for a great season. And then he brings out a surprise. It is Kathy's two butlers, Patrick and Carlos, and they are bringing the ladies martinis. I thought that was a fabulous touch. Let me tell you something. I love Patrick. I think that he is a star in his own right. And I would be here for a show on him, okay? So they ended with them doing that bottoms up game, and Sutton finishes her martini first. And y'all, that was the season. Let me tell you something. I have never been so happy for a season to be over because Beverly Hills worked my nerves. And to review Beverly Hills and then Potomac and all the foolishness going on both franchises, it was like, okay, something's got to give because I can't do this anymore. But guys, it's been real. It's been fun. We are at the end of our Beverly Hills journey. I hope you all have enjoyed my recaps. And as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.
Oh! Shout out to everybody. I had fun.
I gotta be good.
Nah, I forgot.
They told me to be
TF,
good enough.
... I'm out this
They
bitch.
told me to be good.
Ha!